Betsy?
Oh, good afternoon, everybody. This is Betsy Johnson with the Treatment Advocacy Center. It's an honor to be with you today. I have two of my friends joining me today, Mary Kay Pierce from Richland County and Marge Leinhart from Butler County, and I myself live in Franklin County in Ohio. Prior to joining the Treatment Advocacy Center, I was the Associate Executive Director of NAMI Ohio for 10 years, and so family issues are near and dear to my heart, as I am a family member as well. And it's what brought me really to Treatment Advocacy Center to advocate on behalf of families and individuals with mental illness. And I have seen really over the past couple of years, I've had the opportunity to travel around the state, or around the country rather, and see a lot of AOT programs in place. And I have really just I really feel passionate about this because I've seen how it's changed lives. And hopefully, most of you have been at this now for going on 2 years, so hopefully, like me, you've seen firsthand what quality AOT programs can do to change lives for everybody. So we'll talk a little bit about steps you can take at the state and local and individual level to help and engage those families even more so. Just quickly, I wanted to talk a little bit what we're going to cover here today. We're going to help ensure you have a better understanding of the important role of engaging families at all levels, give you some practical suggestions on how you can engage your state advocacy organizations and things that those state agencies can do to ensure that your program is meeting the needs of families. Same thing at the local level. We'll give some local advocates some tips on how they can help ensure that the program's meeting their needs. And finally, you'll hear from a family member, and she'll talk about her experience with her daughter, who has been in the AOT program in Butler County for many years, and she can talk about how she has helped make that situation a success. So the purpose of this webinar really is to help you start thinking ahead after the grant program, after the grant dollars go away in a few more years. You're going to want to make sure that this program is sustained into the future. And one way to do that is really to engage the families in your state or in your community in the program. So families provide amazing things. They can give your AOT program energy. They can help educate other family members and stakeholders and the general public, and they also help hold the program accountable. And additionally, as you'll hear from Marge, they really can help ensure that the clinical outcomes are successful. And they can do this in a number of ways, but oftentimes they can see things that maybe their loved one doesn't. So they can help, if they have a loved one who's starting to decompensate, they can make sure that the treatment team knows that before things go awry and they have to be rehospitalized. So families can be part of the team. I mentioned Ohio, so forgive me, but I have a few Ohio slides in here because and this particular slide shows our Governor John Kasich, and surrounded by a number of family members from throughout Ohio who worked to help make the program here a success. They were able to identify some barriers in our law that required tweaking to help ensure that our AOT programs were as effective as possible. So that's the role that family state advocates can play, is they can help educate other stakeholders, other family members, when they see a barrier that needs to be overcome. I was on one site visit to, I won't say where, but one of the folks on this, one of the sites involved in this grant, and they had not yet really fully engaged their NAMI, their statewide NAMI affiliate, but yet they recognized that they were going to need some support when it came time to seeking dollars. And so again, that's something that state and local representatives can ask for money, but certainly affiliates or NAMI affiliates can do that. So that's one reason you really want to include them. Other ways state affiliates or advocates can be helpful is they can educate other family members about the AOT program. One is most of the folks on the phone are familiar with NAMI Stay with a Family education program. It's a 12-week education program, and right now we're working with the folks at NAMI National to try and get AOT included in their curriculum. I believe they're in the process of updating that, and we'll have a new curriculum sometime next year. But in the meantime, there is an opportunity to include discussion of AOT in those family-to-family classes. I believe it's class 11 where they talk about advocacy might be a good place to include that. I know there are several NAMIs that already do that. Also, state advocates can help with educating, like I said, other family members. This is an example. We have it on the Treatment Advocacy website if you're interested, but this is an example of a brochure that the state NAMI put out. It really takes the AOT program and puts it in easy to understand terms, helps debunk some of the myths about AOT, asks some of those frequently asked questions and answers, and just so that might be something that if you had an active statewide NAMI affiliate, you could help ask them to work with you to develop some materials that are family and participant friendly. Other ways you could use advocates to help support your program is they can include, mention of AOT programs in their newsletters. Most state and local affiliates have regular newsletters that they put out, if not monthly, usually quarterly. And that's an opportunity for them to let other families know that AOT is available in their community. Also, including AOT workshops at the state conference. I know we are going to be presenting them at the NAMI convention at the end of June, Marge and Mary Kay and I, so that's another opportunity. Also, another way is that family members can help educate others in the community is through crisis intervention team training. It's important that CIT officers are aware that AOT is a program that's available, and on the flip side, CIT officers can help in the education of families. They are, officers, find that they are going, back to the same place over and over again, and they think maybe this person is a good candidate for AOT. They can talk to the family members in the home about the possibility of, doing, exploring AOT as a program that might be helpful to their loved one. And then also recognizing the AOT program of the year is another opportunity. We do that oftentimes. State NAMI and local NAMI affiliates recognize the CIT Officer of the Year. So sort of in that same vein, if you've got somebody working in your AOT program that's really going above and beyond, it's a nice opportunity for them to recognize that person and give the program some exposure with the media. Another way you can that affiliates can or that advocates can help promote AOT is by just monitoring, at the state level, what counties in your community offer AOT. This is an example of the state of Ohio, and we developed this map during the Olympics, so it has a gold, silver and bronze medals on the brain. So what we've got here is just we've identified those counties that had fully functional AOT programs, counties that were sort of in the, had developed policies and procedures but hadn't quite adopted it are reflected in silver. And then counties who have done some, exploratory meetings and have educated themselves, asked questions, perhaps gone on site visits to other counties to observe their courts in session, are reflected here in bronze. So this is something that, if you're a family in crisis and you want to know quickly, does your family have or does your community have AOT? This is something like this would be really valuable to share with families so they can see where it's available and where it is and where maybe they need to do some advocacy to see it expanded. And then, of course, requesting technical assistance is something that's available to you. The Treatment Advocacy Center has implementation guides. We have developed another document that's available to all the states, but it was done here in Ohio, which is the core elements of effective AOT programming, which includes seven core elements that folks can follow to advocate for programming in their community and making sure that the programs are meeting all those elements to be as effective as possible. So again, that's something that families might want to refer to. And families are, they're important because they hold you all accountable. That's the most important piece because, without the families, involved, there really isn't, a stronghold in the community that really has a vested interest in this issue. So it's really important that you bring them to the table. I know as I was out doing, visiting some of the programs around the country, I always ask, to what degree are you engaging families in your program, particularly with individuals who are in crisis or on AOT, programs. Are you working with their families? And, the response I hear most regularly is, well, we ask the participants if they want us to work with a family, and if they say no, then we generally don't. And I recognize that that's important too. You've got to let the clients drive us. But some of those, they'll say, oh, well, they've burned the bridges and their families aren't involved. But I can tell you as a family member, it doesn't mean that bridge can't be rebuilt. If you've got, a loved one who's engaged in treatment, my hunch is, family members would welcome them back into the fold with open arms. It's when they're not in treatment and, families become, disengaged due to, painful things that may happen when somebody is not in treatment. But it doesn't mean that you should give up on them altogether. So I just encourage you to keep that door open. So at this point, I want to turn it over to Mary Kay with NAMI NAMI Richland County. And I just tell you quickly before I turn it over, I worked with Mary Kay when I was at NAMI Ohio, and we had kind of given her sort of a roadmap to how to get AOT implemented in her county, and she followed our roadmap to the letter. And as a result, they now have a program in place. I believe they have. It's a small county, so either I think 4, maybe possibly 6 now, Mary Kay. I think maybe 6 people on their AOT program. But that program would not be in existence if it were not for Mary Kay. Even though the stakeholders in her community, have embraced it now, this was not a priority, and they never would have come to the table without the guidance and the persistence of Mary Kay. So I'm going to turn it over to her now to share her story.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Betsy, and I appreciate coming together with everyone on the call today. I'm passionate about AOT. I can just share with you that I have a brother that has lived in the state of Ohio and has been ill for 38 years. And had we had AOT 20 years ago, I know we would have saved over at least 20 hospitalizations. I think it is a program that could have really helped him in recovery. And still can today, so I'm very passionate about it. In our community, NAMI was a natural to help lead AOT in our community. The reason being, we had started CIT in our county in 2004, and NAMI was the lead agency at that point. So everyone represented on slide 13, we had already made made relationships with since 2004 here in our county. So I had relationships with the whole group that we wanted to call together when we first started planning AOT, and we're going to go to the initial meetings in Ohio. That was in April of 2016. So it was just natural for us to be a part. I can tell you that I have been part of that program, or part of the committee in the program ever since. I am at all the meetings. I chair those meetings. It's been a wonderful collaboration in our community. I can tell you that I sit in those meetings and I listen to all the stakeholders share their part and how they're working on AOT, and I can hear the needs that they have. I can hear the gaps in services sometimes that I can hear from them. I can hear ways that I can help and encourage them. I'll give you an example. just in the time that we've been convening in the last couple years, I could hear the need for more case management from the team, and we were able to advocate for more case management help, address that right away at the team meeting. So I've been able to help hear some of those needs and help them advocate. And since I'm not employed by any of those people, I'm a family member, I can suggest things and bring things to the table that sometimes others might not be able to. So it's been really helpful. I stated that we started our group over 2 years ago, and I've been a part of those meetings for that entire time. One of the things that came apparent right away was the need for increased communication between the families, myself as an advocate, and the whole AOT, all the stakeholders. So we asked that a release be put together, that the person that's involved in AOT would sign that release of information so that our committee could talk openly, that I could hear the families involved and be able to advocate better for those families and talk openly. And that has really helped in our community. I knew a few of the families just from what I was hearing around the table without mentioning of any names. I heard, I could hear things, but I couldn't contribute and I couldn't ask questions. But I wanted to advocate more. So that release of information has really helped, and I think Betsy's going to include that in the materials available to you. I've been able to really just help the flow of communication, I think, between the families and the mental health professionals, the hospital, the courts. I've been able to ask questions on a family perspective, and also been able to talk openly to some of those participants, too, that are NAMI members. So that's been exciting. I can tell you we've been able to kind of bring a face, keep the face and the person alive within the committee setting as the releases were signed, and I'm able to share too. Some of these people I've known for years, and I've seen them in recovery. So to be able to share with the committee that these people they're talking about have hopes, they have dreams, they have talents that I've seen them be able to use when they're well. Some of those things, I think bring a face to the person that they're trying to provide the treatment to, and it helps them, I think, to see that these people can do better with treatment. And as treatment happens in AOT, we've been able to bring those talents back alive in these people's lives. So I think it's very important to have family around the table. I've been able to help educate the families and share about AOT to them, and let them know that their loved one might qualify for this program, and to ask questions of the providers to see if their loved one does indeed qualify to be part of AOT. Another thing that we have done is we have educated everywhere in the community that we possibly, any contacts that I make out in the community when I'm educating, I can share about AOT that has been established in our community and how families can be educated about the program, and to ask questions of the professionals when their loved ones come in contact with the treatment team, and to see if they would qualify and if their loved one might be willing to participate in AOT. We've been able to do that. We have worked with an individual that was part of our AOT on improving or updating a little bit on our participant handbook, which I know you'll have access to also from Betsy Johnson and the treatment advocacy team. You can see the participant handbook. And we helped that a few of those pages become a little more reader-friendly, and we worked with people that were part of our AOT program. We wanted to make sure that the participants knew they were a full partner in the program, that the individuals knew that their input was very, very important, and we really needed them involved, and we respected that input, and we encouraged that. So we tried to update the participant handbook too, to share that with the people who were possibly participating in the program. And that's all I'll say about the participant handbook, but that did, we wanted to make sure that the participants knew how valued they were in the AOT process, and we wanted them to be actively involved. We also educate, I think like Betsy said, through our NAMI programs, of course, but also I've been working hard with our whole AOT team to educate the social workers at our hospital level here in Richland County and also the state hospital level, that everybody knows that Richland County has a program up and running, and everybody's on the same page on helping individuals be part of that program. I also have direct contact in our county with the judge and the magistrate, of course, on our AOT team. I can talk to them whenever possible. I encourage them to have family involvement, or whoever the support person is to the person involved in AOT. Really encourage that. I have direct contact almost on a weekly basis with the mental health providers too, to make sure that they're working with the families wherever possible. I actively ask them, is there a release of information available to this participant? Have they been able to bring anybody alongside them, a support person that can help them in AOT or help them during this recovery time? So I actively know who are participating in the program and if they have any supports around them. And I encourage the treatment team to get more support around the person whenever possible. Again, it's so important that there be a support around the person in AOT. I can share with you, again, the family or the support person knows the individual when they're well. They know what they're like when they're well, and they can encourage the team to understand where the person's at in recovery many times, and share with them what the normal is for that family when they're doing really well, and encourage the treatment team to help the individual obtain that level of wellness again. And whenever that's possible, I encourage that. So we really, of course, want the family and the support person involved as much as possible when we can and when the individual agrees to that. Also, I do talk in Richland County to our AOT monitor, who is our assistant outpatient treatment coordinator at the mental health center that helps with our AOT program. I do talk to her regularly too. I also help the families connect to that person if need be, to make sure they know that they can call and have input during this time while their loved one's in AOT. I also make sure that the AOT monitor is sharing about our NAMI support groups and our family-to-family education classes, the things that we can offer free to the person that's in AOT and to their family members. Also in Richland County, NAMI is the lead agency for CIT, so we have a lot of contact, of course, with law enforcement and encouraging them to educate the community wherever possible about AOT. I hope that helps you see how it's helped in our county, having a family advocate. I certainly have enjoyed my role as being the family advocate and helping to advocate for the person who's in AOT and recovery, help advocating wherever possible.
Thank you, Mary Kay. Is there anything else you wanted to add before we turn it over to Marge?
No, I think that's it. I just am so grateful in our county that they allow the family to be at the table, and it's helped tremendously. And I just encourage you to, wherever possible, include family participation and as much as possible, of course, alongside the individual participation of the person in AOT. Thank you so much.
Thanks. I'm going to turn it over to Marge, who I mentioned. She's from Butler County, Ohio. And this is one of the counties in Ohio that has had AOT in place for several years. So she has a daughter who I'll let her share with you her story.
Hello, I'm Marge Leonhardt, and I'm here to share my family's experience with my daughter's mental illness and with our local assisted outpatient treatment program. I had to get that in because I didn't realize what AOT meant, so I had to look that up. I have 3 daughters, and Amy is my middle daughter. When she was 17, between her junior, senior year in high school, she began experiencing auditory and visual hallucinations. She was frightened and distraught, and after consulting with the pediatrician and our family social worker, I took her to Children's Hospital and through the emergency room, and she was admitted for psychiatric evaluation. After a 2-week program, she was released, and she had for the next year outpatient counseling and prescribed medication. However, she was very resistant to the medication and the counseling. And she made it through she graduated from high school and made it through a year of college. But then things went from bad to worse. She became so withdrawn and delusional that she just couldn't function, and she was again hospitalized. And at this point, she was diagnosed with schizophrenia. Even when she was hospitalized this time, she refused medication, and this time she stopped eating. And her physical health was suffering dramatically. She became dehydrated and had infections. Since she was over 18, though, she was able to refuse treatment, and there was nothing I could do unless I took legal action. So at the suggestion of the social worker at the hospital, I went to a private attorney to get guardianship for her. And then there was a custody hearing. After that, she continued on at the hospital, but she exhausted my health insurance mental health coverage, and then she tried to escape from the psychiatric ward the night before she was going to be released. So the hospital transferred to the state psychiatric hospital in our city. This is where I learned about NAMI, and I took the family-to-family classes, and they also, what was extremely helpful, made a referral to another mom who had had similar issues with her daughter, and that one-on-one contact was a lifesaver for me. I mean, we spoke the same language. She understood what I was going through, and she could tell me from another point of view, you're going to get through this, and in a couple of years, things will settle down, and you'll get on the other side of the big hurdle. And I just can't tell you what a lifeline that was to me to hear that. And NAMI, the family classes, helps me in that it gave me Amy's perspective. And it not only was she dealing with her illness and her delusions, but she felt her own mother was working against her. So that was extremely helpful to me. After 3 months in the psychiatric hospital, she was ready to be released to my home. So they gave her an extended leave to see how things would work. And for the first week, she took her meds, and things were well. Then when she was officially released, she stopped taking her meds again, and she refused to speak with a psychiatrist that I tried to take her to, and then she stopped eating again. She would just sit on her bed, unresponsive, and stare at the wall. In the evening, she would roam the house, and she was just very rapidly decomposing. I had discovered that her younger sister found her wandering through the house carrying a knife because she wanted to carve her initials on herself to keep the boys in the bushes from getting her. I just was unable to keep Amy safely at my home without medication. I couldn't do this. At this time, I sought help from the Butler County Mental Health Association. I did some research, and they told me about their guardianship program. I was able to transfer my legal custody to their program, and the nurse guardians were able to help me negotiate having Amy again recommitted to the state psychiatric hospital. And by their having the custody as opposed to my having it, suddenly I could then become Amy's mom again and not her custodian, and we could start to rebuild our relationship. Amy was hospitalized for 8 years, and during this period of time, the Mental Health Association worked very closely with me and the state hospital on Amy's behalf. They attended meetings, her treatment meetings, and all of her semi-annual custody hearings. During this time, I visited her twice a week to try to take her out for off-campus passes, but her compliance with meds was so erratic that she really wasn't getting stable, and she would only consent to see me and other family members about half the time. She wasn't showering or shampooing, her eating habits were erratic, and she certainly wasn't taking her meds on a consistent basis. The hospital tried to release her to a less secure facility, but she made escape efforts and had to be rehospitalized again. I've been told that from the psychiatric personnel that constantly bouncing back and forth between treatment and noncompliance takes a really serious toll on the patients. After readmission, it takes the patient further backward on the baseline. Finally, the injectable antipsychotic medications became available, and this was a lifesaver. These meds, being reliably administered, had a dramatic effect on Amy's state of mind and her stability. When she was stabilized, the Mental Health Association worked with me to try to find a less restrictive placement for Amy. She was transferred to a residential group home in a nearby county. They were able to continue with her injectable meds. They monitored her daily activities of living and encouraged her. I mean, to the extent that they would make special field trips so that she could go to the public library and she could get books or go to the used bookstore. I mean, they really made every effort to try to make Amy comfortable there. As part of her community placement, she was assigned a probate court monitor who, in addition to the guardian program, takes an active interest in her welfare. This is what Butler County calls their wraparound care, and this is specifically to increase the likelihood of successful outpatient treatment. We have monthly team treatment meetings at the residential facility with the psychiatrist, the nurse, the facility administrator, a rep from the guardian program, the court monitor, and myself. All of this has had a very stabilizing influence on Amy's life. She seems more comfortable with her living arrangements and with life in general. And many of the people who know her have commented that she seems calmer and happier. Although Amy still does not believe that she's mentally ill, and she still believes that she does not need medication, she has been making remarkable improvements, and I have to focus on those improvements, not on what's not happening, but what is happening that's positive. At Amy's request, she no longer receives the injections. The group home that she lives in monitors when she takes her oral medications and makes sure that she is truly taking it. She is now able to interact with people, just something as simple as going out for a meal at Frisch's, a local restaurant. She's now able to talk to the waitress. Before, she would give me her order and I would have to relay it to the waitress. So she's able to react with people that she doesn't know on a much more consistent basis. I see her twice a week for dinner and going out, and then once a month she has a weekend visit at my home. She has an older sister that she's very close to, and her sister has 2 little boys. Those are the little boys in the picture there. Amy thoroughly enjoys the children. We take family outings to the zoo and to the parks. She attends the boys' baseball games and school programs. She plays games with the boys and enjoys family holidays. And this year was a real improvement. She actually was able, I said, I want to buy presents for everybody. So she was able to take active part in purchasing very thoughtful presents for each of the family members. And that's just a remarkable improvement for Amy. For 6 years now, since Amy's transition to the probated court community treatment, we've been able to find a sweet spot where Amy is safely housed and her meds are closely monitored, but she is free to be an important participant in family activities. We're able to be a part of her life without being overwhelmed with her needs. I have found that the assisted outpatient treatment group has been eager to listen to Amy's family input. Many of the people in this treatment program have family members that have issues, and this gives them an added depth of understanding and compassion that has just been life-changing for us. If Amy has any problems with her ADLs, I can go with the meetings, I can discuss this with the treatment team, and we've developed over a period of time a carrot and stick approach. For example, if she's not showering, I'll still come and see her for dinner, but she won't get a weekend visit until she's compliant. There was another occasion when all of a sudden she seemed to be more distracted and withdrawn and mumbling to herself. So I didn't wait for the next treatment meeting. I immediately called her monitor, and I said, I'm really concerned about this. And they checked with the treatment team and discovered there'd been a slight change in her meds, and they were able to make adjustments. I needed to get her to go see the eye doctor, and she didn't want to go. So once again, we used the carrot and stick approach. I continued just to come to visit her, but she didn't get a weekend visit until she agreed and actually went and saw the eye doctor. For us, it's always been very difficult to attend the probate court hearings. I mean, that's just a gut-wrenching thing for a family member. But the Butler County Mental Health Association has been very sensitive to both Amy and to myself. I have met both the probate judge and the probate magistrate. After I told the magistrate how difficult Amy found these hearings, because you would see her the month before her next hearing, she'd start decomping again just because of nerves and anxiety over it. So the magistrate found a way to change the hearings from every 6 months to once a year, and that was a big help. Also, her hearings are now held at the residential facility and not at the courthouse. This is more comfortable, Amy. Sometimes she will attend these probate meetings, sometimes she won't. They don't try to force Amy to do this. She has a court appointed attorney, and this has been the same attorney Amy's had for years. So Amy now feels comfortable talking with her, and sometimes she'll just allow the attorney to speak for her. At these meetings, the magistrate always asks me how I see Amy's progress and what my goals are for Amy and how I'm feeling about her care, and am I satisfied with her care. And the magistrate also asks me if I'm taking care of myself, that she's concerned for the entire family. So this has just been a remarkable treatment for us. I don't feel that I've lost control of Amy's treatment. Rather, I feel that I've got a team at my back to help make decisions. Amy's aware that the treatment team is making the final decisions and that Mom is not the bad guy here, and that she is aware of this. One of my greatest fears as a mother of a disabled child, or young woman, I'm sorry, was what would happen when I'm no longer here to advocate for her. And discussed this with the treatment team, and we decided to invite her older sister to attend a probate hearing and to meet the care team, and so that there would be continuity within the family, keeping a continuing interest in Amy's care. My goal is to model to the rest of the family that it is possible to love Amy and be involved in her life, but not be overwhelmed with her needs. In this journey, I have had to learn to take care of myself, that that's not being selfish, that that's being sensible, because if I go under, it's all going to go under. So I have had to recognize that loving Amy is the most important thing I can do. Advocating for the treatment team can do this, her sister can do this. I'm her mother, and that's a very special relationship. The second thing I've learned is that there is community help. I'm not the Lone Ranger. There are people out there who are actively willing to help, and you have to be willing to seek that help and to learn from the experiences of other people. And in terms of taking care of myself, I've joined the church choir. It's an activity that's social, that involves my love of music, and I find being actively involved in the worship service is a very helpful thing to me personally. I enjoy yoga. The mindfulness and the stretching I find relaxing and calming. And I've been spending more time outdoors, more time in my garden, and I take daily hikes. Getting out of doors and enjoying nature has been very helpful to me. So I'm sorry I've gone on so long here. I hope I haven't gone too long, but I am very grateful to our local AOT program. They've turned my life around and my daughter's life. Thank you.
Thank you, Marge. Ashley, I guess I'll turn it over to you to monitor the questions.
Sure, thank you. If anyone has any questions at this time for any of our speakers, we could ask your question out loud, or you can use the chat box at the bottom right-hand side of your screen.
This is Lisa Callahan. I have a question. Betsy, maybe you could answer and the others could add in. In those communities where where there are AOT grants and NAMI does not have a presence, either not a very strong one or not one at all, how would you recommend the grantees to try to engage NAMI into their communities?
I would identify folks that are involved in AOT, the family members of the folks in the program, and then see if you can maybe get them collaborating with each other, and then have them reach out to NAMI. I think the folks that have the first-hand experience and have seen the improvements in their family members and want to give back and make sure that opportunity is available to other families is probably your best bet. And I think when NAMI starts hearing from other families, they'll sit up and take notice and hopefully join them at the table.
Could they reach out to you, Betsy, or could you recommend someone if they really just want to maybe bounce some ideas off someone who has experience?
Absolutely. I would love to get a call like that.
Okay. So take note, everybody that's on the call, from the various grants. I know some of you have been very interested in getting family involvement in your program, so please take advantage of reaching out to Betsy for some advice and suggestions of how to make that entree.
I would come, it's Mary Kay, I would come alongside any family member that called our office, or if you referred them to us, I would love to come alongside any family member and help in any way possible if their loved one is in AOT or involved with any of the courts for that matter. Just being there to educate and share what we have gone through with my own brother, just knowing they're not alone would be helpful. So I'd be willing to help, and I'm sure any NAMI close by would be willing to help.
Okay, thank you. And at the very end, we'll have a slide with Betsy's contact information, and maybe Betsy, you could vet those contacts if they reach out to you, and have either Mary Kay or Marge help out on that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
At one of the site visits, I had an opportunity to sit down with several AOT program participants and their family members, and they shared their experience. And there was probably 5 family members in that sitting around in that room with us who couldn't couldn't say enough about the change that they'd seen in their loved one and how grateful and thankful they were for that opportunity. So I have to imagine, those folks are in most of your programs, and I think they're the ones you really need to reach out to. I think they would be grateful for the opportunity to give back. I really do. That's kind of how these families are.
We have another question from Melissa Neal in the chat box. How do programs effectively incorporate the interests of family and advocates while balancing the needs and requirements of the AOT program?
Okay. Actually, I apologize. Can you read that one more time? I don't see it on the screen.
Oh, yeah, sure. She had asked, how do programs effectively incorporate the interests of family and advocates while balancing the needs and requirements of the AOT program?
To me, it's going to make your life a lot easier by involving the families. As Marge mentioned, she started to see her daughter, saw some changes in her personality that was a result of the medication change that had concerned her. So she contacted the treatment team right away, and they were able to address it. So I don't know if this is a concern about time commitments elsewhere, but I think it really is worthwhile to make sure that those families are at the table whenever possible, and recognizing that it's only going to make their job much easier in the long run by engaging them. In terms of if you've got somebody who's in the AOT program who does not want their family involved in their treatment, I would identify somebody else, another support person, a family friend, or somebody else who could be supportive, and then every now and again check in with them and see if maybe they've changed their mind about getting that family member back involved, because like I mentioned earlier, I think a lot of families, if they know that their loved one is getting treatment, they would be very anxious to re-engage and be a support for that person. But ultimately, I think getting the families and support people involved is only going to make your job easier.
I so agree, Betsy, and the families, this person is not going to be an AOT forever, so we have to make those connections with the support people or educate the people around the person in the AOT program, or just enhance those relationships. That person will need them to stay in recovery, so we do have to make time for that, to engage those support people somehow.
Thank you. Does anyone else have any other questions at this time for Betsy, Marge, or Mary Kay? Okay, I'm just going to go on to the next slide here with Betsy's contact information. Be sure to make note of her email and phone number if you need to reach out. Okay, if no one has any other questions, we can end here. I'm going to keep the screen up here for anybody that needs Betsy's contact information. Thank you to Betsy, Marge, and Mary Kay for being with us today.
Thank you, Ashley.
Thank you, Ashley.
Bye.
The leader has disconnected.